Welcome Primary 5, with you is Ms. Noura Abdurrahman, and today we are going to start lesson number 4 on concept number 1 on unit 1. So are you ready to start? Let's go! Today we are going to talk about aquatic ecosystem. The word aqua means water, so anything start with aqua related with water. So aquatic ecosystem means water ecosystem. Aquatic ecosystem means water ecosystem. The aquatic ecosystem can be classified into two types: salt water and fresh water. Salt water and fresh water. Let's start with the salt water. When we hear salt water, we can remember sea and oceans. Okay, which one is the largest salt water body we can find it on the Earth's surface? It's the ocean. So the ocean is the largest salt water ecosystem covering the Earth's surface. Again, what is the largest saltwater ecosystem covering the Earth's surface? It's the ocean. Okay, in the ocean and on salt water we can find two areas: shallow area and deep area. Shallow area and deep area. The shallow area, it's the area which is not deep, this part, and the deep area, it's the area which has deep water right here. So we have shallow area and deep area. Let's start with shallow area. In shallow area, we can find at first the coral reefs. The coral reefs, we can find it or it's live in the shallow areas, which is not deep. Number two, we have an area called intertidal zones. Intertidal zones. Repeat after me. Intertidal zones. What is the intertidal zones? The intertidal zones, it's an area in the coast, here on the coast or on the beach. Okay, this area disappears underwater at the high tide and appears at the low tide. What's the meaning of that? Okay, here, this is the coast, this is the beach. We are sitting right here and we are building some castles. What happened? After a while, the water come over our castle, destroy it, and the end of water become from here into here, and the water still coming into here for many hours. This called high tide. Okay, what happened to this area? This area, it's disappear under the water. So by the high tide, like we can see in this picture, this is a high tide. What happened to the area? Disappear under the water. Okay, and after a few hours, what will happen? The water return back from here, and the water ends return back to this point. What happened to this area again? It appears again by the low tide. When the water return back to here, this is low tide. When the water start from here to here, this is high tide. So in the intertidal zone, it's disappear underwater by high tide and appears again by low tide. Again, disappears by high tide and appears again by low tide. This area is called intertidal zone. It's called what? Intertidal zone, and it can be found on the coast. So on the shallow area, again, we have coral reefs and intertidal zones. Coral reefs can be found in shallow areas. Also, intertidal zones can be found in the shallow areas. The intertidal zones, it's on the coast. It's disappear by high tide and appears again by low tide. Now, let's talk about the deep area. The deep area on ocean or sea, it's a very deep area, and the sunlight cannot reach this area. This area, which is very deep, and the sunlight cannot reach it, it's called abyssal zone. Abyssal zone. So there is a very deep area on the ocean. The sunlight cannot reach. It's called what? Abyssal zone. Abyssal zone. The abyssal zone has no plants. Give reason why. Because there is no sunlight cannot reach. So again, the abyssal zone, it's a very deep area in the ocean and the sunlight cannot reach it. Now let's talk about the saltwater lakes. We know that some of lakes have salt water and most of them have fresh water. Let's talk about some of them which have a salt water. Number one, we have Lake Assal in a country called Djibouti. It's called what? Lake Assal. Lake Assal in Djibouti. Lake Assal in Djibouti, it's a saltwater ecosystem. It has a very high concentration of salt water. That's why it's very salty for fish and most aquatic animals to live in. It has only few types of plants and different types of bacteria can grow on it. But it's very salt water. It's called what? Lake Assal in a country called Djibouti. Now let's talk about the saltwater lakes in Egypt. We have four. Repeat after me. Lake Manzala, Lake Mariout, Lake Bardawil, and Lake Etku. Manzala, Mariout, Bardawil, Etku. Manzala, Mariout, Bardawil, Etku. Again, what is the saltwater lakes found in Egypt? Lake Manzala, Lake Mariout, Lake Bardawil, and Lake Etku. Now we finished the saltwater ecosystem. Let's talk about the freshwater ecosystem. We can find the freshwater and as a still water, which means the water which cannot move or don't move, like ponds and lakes. It's a still water. Number two, we have flowing water like rivers and streams. Okay, let's start with ponds and lakes, which is a still water. Many ponds and lakes have water that present all the year, and some of these ponds and lakes can dry only on the hot summer. Look into this picture. It was a lake right here, and in the hot summer, what happened to this lake? It's dry up. The water, all the water evaporate, and this lake or pond, it's dry up. Okay, what happened to the animals and plants which live in this lake or ponds? They must make adaptation to adapt with the changes that happened in these lakes and ponds. So some lakes it's only dry up in which time? In hot summer. Some lakes and ponds only in the hot summer will dry up and the water will evaporate. Now let's talk about the freshwater lakes which can be found in Egypt. We have three. Repeat after me. Lake Nasser, Lake Karun, and Lake Wadi Rayyan. Now again, Lake Nasser, Lake Karun, Lake Wadi Rayyan. So we have three lakes of fresh water, which is Nasser, Karun, Wadi Rayyan. Nasser, Karun, Wadi Rayyan. Now let's talk about the flowing water bodies, like river and streams. This is the river. And from the river, sometimes there is a small water bodies getting out from the river. It's called streams. So we have also a small bodies from flowing water. It's called streams, and it's getting out from the river. So the flowing water bodies can be found in rivers and streams. What is the streams? They are smaller bodies of flowing water. On the rivers and streams, the water is always flowing and always moving or running, and they can be connected with other lakes or other oceans or other seas. And also many different plants, many different animals can be found in the rivers or streams. What about the estuary? The estuary is a special type. Can you remember the estuary? The estuary, it's an aquatic ecosystem which can be found on the edges of the sea or ocean where the river or stream ends. What's the meaning of that? It's the place where the salt water of sea or ocean meet the fresh water of the river or stream. So if the river or stream connect with ocean or sea, what will happen? Estuary. The estuary, it's the area when the fresh water of river or stream meet the salt water of sea or ocean. So here we can find the estuary. The estuary is a mixture of salt water and also a mixture of fresh water. Now let's talk about the types of water on ponds, streams, oceans and seas, and make a comparison between the living organisms which can be found in them. Let's start with the type of water in each one of them. On the ponds we have a fresh water. On the stream we have fresh water also. Ocean and sea we can find the salt water. What about the water movement? In the ponds it's still water. It cannot move. On the streams it's running water or flowing water. Okay, what about the ocean and sea? It's all constantly moving in its place in the form of waves. We all know that the sea or ocean, the water in it constantly means that it's moving in its place in the form of waves only. It's not flowing or running. Okay, now let's talk the species that live in each one of them. Okay, the first plant live in the ponds. It's called water lily. Water lily. The water lily is the plant which we can found in the ponds. Okay, what about the animals? We can found some insects that live and also they are laying their eggs in the ponds. Okay, give reason why these insects laying their eggs in the ponds because this pond have a still water. So what will happen to the egg? It will not move away. So if it put the egg in a place, it will found it in the same place. So the ponds have a still water and the eggs will not move away. Number two, we have types of worms. We can find it on the bottom of these ponds. It's called leeches. Leeches. Number four, we have two animals can be found that, because they are eating insects in the ponds. These animals, it is the salamander. Salamander. This animal is called salamander. And this is the frog. So the frogs and salamander, they can be found in ponds to eat the insects. So we have water lily, insects, leeches, frogs, and salamanders. Again, water lilies, insects, leeches, frogs, and salamanders can be found in ponds. Let's go to the streams. On the stream, what is the plant which can be found in the streams? We have the mosses. What is the mosses? The mosses, they are like a type of algae which attach themselves to the rocks on the streams. They are called mosses. So mosses, it's the type of plants that can be found on the streams. And also we have three types of aquatic animals: catfish, crayfish, and trout. Catfish, crayfish, and trout. Now let's go to the ocean and seas. What is the living organism that can be found in oceans and seas? The first plant, it's called kelp. Kelp. After that, let's talk about the living organism which can be found there. Dolphins, starfish, and we have a type of fish, it's called Moose's fish or flounder fish. This is the Moose's fish or flounder fish. You can see it from the picture. It's called Moose's fish or flounder fish. So what is the types of living organism can be found in oceans and seas? Kelp, dolphin, starfish, Moose's fish or flounder fish. Kelp, dolphin, starfish, Moose's fish or flounder fish. What about the living organisms on streams? Mosses, which is the plant, and we have catfish, crayfish, and trout. The oceans and seas environment include many smaller ecosystems, and now we have the waves that moving in the ocean. What makes the waves moving in oceans or seas? The wind. So the wind is the reason that make the water of ocean and sea forming waves or moving in the form of waves. And when the water of the sea and ocean moving in the form of waves, they are connected to each other. All the oceans are connected to each other and moving in circles. The movement of the water of ocean, it's called ocean current. Again, the movement of ocean water, it's called ocean current, and we can expect the direction of this movement. With you was Ms. Noor Abdurrahman, and thank you for listening.